This toxic tax breaks document has been circulating for the last couple weeks, and it's a little confusing. It has a lot of numbers on it, a lot of information, and I wanted to just take a couple minutes to dig into it and kind of try to make sense of where did these numbers come from and what do they actually mean for taxpayers here in West Virginia. But before I do that, just like full disclosure, all the information on here is best current available information, mostly taken, it looks like, from either the pilot agreement or from documents obtained through FOIA requests. And that kind of like points to the unfortunate reality of this whole situation is that there just hasn't been a lot of transparency. There's not a lot of information publicly available. And so people here in the community are just having to kind of piece together as best they can what is going on. And I think it's really important to understand these numbers and try to make sense of them so that we can be informed and understand where our tax dollars are going and figure out, is this a good economic decision for our community? So that said, based on the kind of current best available information, obviously subject to change if more information is released, the total estimated cost to taxpayers over a 10-year period for this Rockwool project is $37,428,200. So that's a heck of a lot of money, um, obviously, and it can be divided into kind of two separate categories. We have kind of the hard costs. That's like the fixed money that the government is going to be paying to support Rockwool to get their infrastructure in place to get them up and running. And then we have the soft costs, and so that is more of kind of the potential lost tax revenue as a result of sort of the tax breaks package they've been given. So let's make sense of this $25,440,000 number, that kind of hard tax support money. That is coming from three primary sources, as you can see in this little pie chart. The first one of those is this $2 million from the West Virginia Division of Highways. So that information comes, and this is obtained through FOIA request, from this letter from the Division of Highways to Andy Blake, the city manager in Ranson. And it just says, we would expect the construction cost of the extension to be about $2 million. So kind of vague. There's not a lot of supporting evidence as to how they know the road will cost that much, like how they arrived at that amount. But best we have to go off of, that the Department of Highways has agreed to give $2 million for road construction. So that accounts for 4% of the money they're receiving. The next amount, which counts for 12%, is this $2,920,000 from the West Virginia Development Office. So that comes from two separate pieces. This one's been talked about a lot, is the $2.2 million forgivable loan. Forgivable loan, they don't have to pay it back, very few strings attached. Basically, it looks like they just have to hire 120 people and like get their operations up and running to get this money. So it's basically just fun money from the state, from taxpayers for Rockwool to do what they would like with. And then the other part of the money from West Virginia Development Office, and these are both outlined in this MOU from September 7th, 2017, obtained through FOIA request. The other part is this workforce training grant, which basically says that Rockwool will get $2,000 per full-time equivalent employee per year for up to 3 years. So basically, if they hire 120 people, as they're saying, that would be $240,000 a year. They'd get that for 3 years, so that brings them up to $720,000, which, when added together with that $2.2 million forgivable loan, that adds up to this $2,920,000 amount on here. And then the last number is this $20,520,000 from the West Virginia Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council. Admittedly, that is like a funny number because this is for the water and sewer infrastructure, and in theory, Rockwool is supposed to pay back some or all of that at some point in time. But again, like no information has been made public about like how that's actually going to happen. So this is broken down into water and sewer. Again, obtained through FOIA request. We see here a $4.52 million non-interest bearing loan for water, and I've now been told that it's actually going to be $7 million. So I guess that number has gone up. And then for sewer, originally it was listed as $9 million, but then the more recent documentation shows it's actually going to be $16 million. So the number on here was taken from combining the $16 million for the sewer with the $4.52 million for the water line. Those two together make up this $20,520,000 amount. And again, in theory, some of this is getting paid back. The problem is no information has been made available to the public about when and how it's getting paid back. And actually, if you run at least the water numbers, it just doesn't add up. Basically, Rockwool is in theory buying water from JUI, and then JUI will be reimbursing the JCDA $2.88 for every 1,000 gallons of water. But if you do the math, even if Rockwool uses the maximum amount of water they could possibly use, that's still not going to be enough money to repay the loan within the designated period. So it's a little unclear if or when or how that money is being paid back. If anyone has insight on that, like it would be great for the public to know. Please come forward and share that. So that kind of covers the hard costs. And then this last box down here, we're talking about that soft cost amount, that $11,988,200. That is the kind of lost revenue as a result of the pilot agreement. And so this is where it gets like slightly confusing. It's like you have to kind of be looking at the tax code. But basically what we're looking at is that, and again, these aren't increases in taxes. These are just losses in tax revenue compared to had this been any other business coming in and paying a full tax value. So what the public's been told is that Rockwool's making a $150 million investment. Roughly $75 million is for land, which is subject to real estate tax, and then $75 million for equipment, which is subject to personal property tax. So basically, to arrive at these numbers here, these numbers were derived using the 2018 Jefferson County levy rate sheet from the West Virginia assessor. And basically, for either the property or the real estate tax, you start by looking at the total investment of $75 million in either of those categories. And then you do this kind of math calculation to determine how much they'd be taxed at the full tax rate, which varies slightly the tax rate for property tax or real estate tax. And then you use the state's apportionment rate to determine how much the state retains versus how much is sent to the county, to the schools, to the municipality, which in this case is Ranson. And then we can compare those numbers to the payment schedule in the pilot agreement to determine what is that total lost potential tax revenue for each of those entities. So as you can see here, basically what we're looking at is that it's going to be the schools that are taking the biggest hit. Like 52% of that potential revenue would have gone to support our schools. And you can totally argue, I mean, this is a fair argument if you want to make it, that, well, if Rockwool wasn't coming, we wouldn't be getting any money if they weren't here, in theory. And okay, maybe that's true, but I think just from a moral standpoint, like, are we okay with just having like a couple of people up in the county government decide that, like, sure, we're going to give millions of dollars of tax breaks to this foreign corporation? Well, meanwhile, our actual small local businesses are really struggling and having to pay really high taxes. And, to me, that just doesn't make sense. That's my personal opinion. I'll get off the soapbox, but I think, it's really worth asking, like, why are we giving this many tax breaks to this company? Is that the only way? Is that what's in the best interests of this community? So that's kind of the high-level overview of where these numbers come from and what they mean. I'm not a numbers person, guys. This is overwhelming and confusing for me, and I'm sure there's people out there who can make better sense of it. And again, like, all of this is in flux. This is very much a living document. Like, more information could come out at any time, realistically probably through FOIA requests, because it seems like no one is being very forthcoming with this information. But definitely, again, subject to change. But what it does call, like, really clearly into light is that this is an expensive project and that taxpayers are going to be bearing some of the burden. And I think we have to decide as a community, like, are the benefits worth it? And the unfortunate truth is that the JCDA has not presented us, I'm having a hard time speaking, has not presented us with any sort of comprehensive cost benefit analysis that really shows us why this is good for us. I mean, we know that we are losing potential tax revenue. We know that the state is just gifting free money to Rockwool. We know that property values are going to be affected. We know there's local businesses that are going to be affected. We know there's going to be wear and tear on our roads. Like, there's a whole lot of costs. And we're hearing, okay, some jobs are being created, but we're not seeing a full economic picture of why this really is in the best interest of the county. So for anyone who's kind of pushing back on this, like, please do push back. Please get us better numbers. Please, like, help make sense of this in a clearer way. And please provide information. If you think this is a good choice for our local economy, like, please share why and back that up with data. Because right now, I think for the average person, it just doesn't look like a great deal. All right, thanks for listening. I will try to also post, like, links so that you can see all these sources yourself. Just there is a lot to dig into, and I'm sure there's people with better heads for numbers than me who can kind of break this out even further. But yeah, that's it. I hope you all will continue looking into this, because this is a whole lot of money that we stand to lose if this information is correct. All right, thank you.